All right, Alec, what's going on?
Um, another work day, another day, another dollar. That's
Yeah,
how it goes. How it
yeah.
always normally goes. Yeah.
Well, we're about to bring some excitement, some joy, and we're gonna talk about A Silent Voice, the movie,
Based on a manga.
based on a manga. Yeah, which I have not read,
I have not either.
but I've heard
Um,
there are a couple of differences, but
yeah.
I didn't look in depth into it. Um,
I'll talk about it a little as it goes on. I looked into it a little bit, but
okay, okay.
um,
So, what were your overall impressions on this?
this was a beautiful movie. Um, I think this and Your Name both got snubbed at the Oscars this year in 2016.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that neither of these films got nominated, neither of those films got nominated is a travesty and a shame, and it shows that the Academy has absolutely no understanding of animation as an art form. Um,
Right.
this movie um, is not like a fun watch, but it's in the sense that like it's really heavy stuff pretty much the entire time, um, and it's very hard hitting and unflinching in its portrayal of bullying and with people with self-esteem issues.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a very affecting movie, but at the same time, it's also a gorgeously, beautifully animated, and the art style of the movie was just fantastic to look at. So overall, first impressions after I watched it was just like it was one of the first things I look to these days is like, are there any figures of the anime figures of any of the characters in this? And there are not,
Hmm.
which is not really honestly that surprising. It's not a movie that really begs tons of merchandising, I guess. There is
Yeah.
merchandise for it, but it's not something that's like going to necessarily demand tons of merch for. Probably just because the characters are so like real and down to earth. A lot of times, I mean, like a lot of anime characters can be, but sometimes reasons that they get that they're so marketable is because so many people can get a lot of stuff out of them. They make the characters sort of at times a little bit one note in a lot of anime, um, just so that they can kind of be that just makes it a little bit more marketable. But like the characters in this movie are not really. I mean, I guess you could say a lot of the side characters are sort of they're not super developed,
Yeah,
but
that's
they're
one thing I kind of noticed.
but I think some of that is due to the adaptation. They're cramming 7 volumes worth of content into 2 hours and 20 minutes, which is very long for an anime film.
Yeah,
Um,
really. Yeah.
I don't think many Studio Ghibli films went that go that long. A few of them break 2 hours, but this is almost 2 hours and 20 minutes. That's a long set. But honestly, like the pacing is just amazing. The lead characters though are not what I would very well fleshed out people. Um, so I think I don't want to say that's the reason why they didn't make anime figures of them, but like I, I think there's more to them than just that they're marketable. It's the movie's bigger. The movie's more. I don't want to say it's like above that because I mean it's still a movie, but um,
You can tell it handles itself with a bit more.
gravitas
Yeah.
definitely. Makoto Shinkai, the director of Your Name, actually had extremely high praise for this movie. He said that he could never attempt anything to this level of film, like to what they were able to achieve with it,
Yeah.
which is like astounding praise for one of the most visionary like directors from the country since Hayao Miyazaki and Isao Takahata. Uh, that's pretty crazy, and I mean I think it's very warranted. Honestly, it was a great movie. Anyway, I've been going on for a while. Your
Hmm.
thoughts about this?
See,
You can tell I enjoyed it.
Yeah, yeah. See, I didn't know anything about this movie going into it, so it was
Mhm.
kind of really blind for me, it was just like I saw it on Netflix. I was like, maybe we should watch this. And like when I was going into it in the beginning, I was like, okay, we have this obnoxious kid bullying, and they're gonna try to redeem this kid. And I'm like, I'm not on, I'm already not on board. This kid is awful. So I'm like, but I felt like it was gonna be kind of cliche in how they handled it. It was like, oh, it's just gonna be obviously he's gonna be redeemed, you know. In the end, he's just gonna turn around and realize what he was doing was wrong. I was like, I already got this mapped out how the story's gonna go. So I was like, I could just kind of. I was like looking at other stuff at the same time in the beginning, and then I look up and there's like it's like a time jump, and I'm like, what the heck? What did I miss? It's like they skipped over to high school with like no warning whatsoever. It was just like it wasn't like this much time has passed. It was just like, oh, we're here now. I'm like, okay, I had to actually go back. I was like, what did I miss here?
Yeah.
Like, oh no, we're just here now. And so I realized, okay, this is one I have to like actively watch because there's like, because they'll just like the pacing of it is like they'll just jump around from like scene to scene. So it's kind of like all over the place. You have to be pretty attentive for that. But yeah, I thought it was done really tastefully, which is cool. Like a lot of time, like anime, when it comes to these kinds of things, when it's not like the main focus, like bullying and things like that, it's like over the top, obnoxious characters like, you're stupid. Look at that ugly face, and it's just like not believable really, and it's not something you can really connect with.
This was like brutal. Like this is very uncomfortable to watch because like
yeah, it was like actively uncomfortable.
Yeah.
But I was also still like, wow, these are like some of the most unbelievable dick children I've ever seen. Is like they're just so just poor intentioned children. Like actively wanted to tear down this girl in any way. And the main, I'm also bad with names. I don't know if I'll remember all the names for this show.
I can't. I'm terrible with the names too. I probably can't remember them.
So Shoya, the main guy who was bullying in the beginning, was like he's just unbearable to watch in the beginning. I was like, there's no way they can redeem this character for me, like no matter how they spin it. But I mean, you fast forward to him much more mature later on, and it's like, okay, well now I'm on board.
Yeah.
Somehow they turned it around. It was like, okay, yeah, now looking back, it was elementary school. He's older now.
And that to me is the thing, is that I don't necessarily think, yes, it's like they were kind of over the top, but at the same time, kids can be horrible monsters to each other. Like I don't want to mince words about it. Kids can be just terrible to each other.
Yeah.
Because they don't really, particularly in that age period that they're in, is like they were like 10, between like 10 and 12, I think. They said 6th grade, but I don't know translation. I don't know exactly how that works exactly, but there's that's like during the period of time in developmentally when kids are just sort of starting to figure out. It's really kind of when they become teenagers, but when you start to sort of figure out that like what you say isn't just like actually has consequences. Like you can't just say whatever you want to whoever. Like you start developing an understanding of empathy and like thinking from someone else's perspective outside of your own. So in that period of life, if you're completely left unchecked, and the teacher did basically nothing to stop them, if you're left completely unchecked, I mean, you know, you can get away with murder practically. And I think I don't want to completely speak on. I'm no expert on this, but I think I remembered reading at some point that Japan has done a very poor job in its history of dealing with people with disabilities in general. So I think that some of that was a little bit of a commentary on that as well. But I'm not Japanese. I don't know everything that there is to know about Japanese culture, so I can't speak to that with full certainty. But I seem to remember reading something about that at some point. So
well, yeah. Along with that, it was like these children were like actually surprised that a deaf person existed when they like introduced her. They were like, "What? She can't speak? What is this creature?"
yeah, it's kind of like they're almost like
cheating you.
sheltered a little bit from society, you know.
Yeah.
Um, so
So I
that's why
mean,
kind of
I
yeah.
feel like that would never like, at least in what I've been brought up in, that never would have been a reaction in like an American school, like
Mm,
just complete shock that this exists, because we're like actively taught about the existence of people with these kinds of disabilities and
hmm.
how to handle them a little bit.
Yeah,
Like,
that's some of that is like it's I think culturally we're different.
yeah,
That's just kind of the way it is, you know.
it was interesting how they handled like a couple of things, like the fact the suicide was a big issue, and
Hmm.
like they really handled it pretty well, where it wasn't kind of a one note thing. There was a little bit of depth to it, and they handled it pretty tastefully. Though it was also weird, like the mom's reaction to it was a little over the top.
She's a weird person. Yeah.
She was like um Shoya was like, "Mom, don't be crazy," and she was like, "Crazy? You were gonna off yourself." I'm like, "Oh, dang." Okay.
Yeah.
And she's like, "I'm gonna burn you this money you earned if you try to kill yourself. So don't do that." And then she accidentally burns it anyway. I'm like, "What the heck? That actually just happened?" I was like, "Okay."
Yeah.
Accidentally burned all of his savings there. So yeah, she was pretty weird. There were a couple of characters, like the side characters, that didn't really do much for me, and it felt
Mhm.
like
Yeah,
as the movie
she didn't do too much for me to be honest. She was a little weird,
yeah,
I
her
thought.
and like a couple
Um,
of the friends that they introduced, I feel like they're probably more depth in the manga, where it's
yeah.
like in here they just kind of came out of nowhere and were introduced and just like kind of, oh, they're one of the main gang now.
Yeah, it was kind of like the blonde girl and then her like boyfriend. They didn't really do anything for
Yeah,
me.
exactly. Like
I
especially the
really like
boyfriend.
yeah, he was just like I am friend dog. Like he was just kind of a completely random like yeah, he was very strange. But I think that was one thing that I really liked in that one scene, which was to me it's such a powerful and like heartbreaking scene when he's just like completely breaking off his relationship with all these people again, with all of his friends again.
Mm.
Kind of it was like three-quarters of the way through the movie, I'd say, where it's just he doesn't want he only wants to focus on his relationship with, and I can't remember her name because I don't remember all the names. I was actually having a hard time remembering the names when I was watching the movie.
Yeah,
So
same. Shoko, the main girl.
Shoko, yeah.
Yeah.
He just kind of wanted to focus on that relationship because I think like to him that was that was the key to figuring out how to make her happy again and for him to find any redemption of for himself, like to have any sort of self worth or self reflection. And he wasn't getting it from any of these other people. Was kind of I think kind of the point. And it was just such a powerful thing when a guy he was saying something. He was just like, "What are you even talking about? You're not even part of this group. Like who are like?" It was like, "Who are you?" I was like, "Dang, that was like hard hitting." So like to that point, I liked that made sense. Even though, yeah, he was sort of just a bland character. I like pretty much all the other side characters though.
Also, let's talk about the bully chick, whatever her name is, Naoka,
Yeah,
something like that.
yeah,
She's awful.
yeah. She's a
She's
horrible
so
person.
awful.
She's a
Like
terrible
it's literally
person, and
like
that's why
okay,
I liked her as a character.
it's like she
Because
was
people I like, there are people out there that are like that. She's just a terrible person, and there's nothing you can
yeah,
really do about it.
she was awful in the beginning, and then when we saw her in this cafe or whatever, she was introduced for briefly. I'm like, okay, now she's gonna come out and she's gonna change as well.
No,
But no,
no,
she's the
she's still
same
a
old.
terrible
She
person.
has not
Yeah,
moved on. She's like, yo, show you. She's basically going up to show you like, let's bully this girl again because that's what we used to do.
he's just
So
like,
fun.
no, that's horrible. I was a terrible person.
It was like lame, and then like she was just so awful throughout the whole thing. Even when she like Shoko's mother comes to the mix too. She's like, oh, you must be the mother of this stupid brat or whatever. And
Oh yeah, they
she
just
starts
start having a
fighting.
cat fight out there. Yeah, I was like,
What are you doing?
"Jeez, man, you're fighting a grown woman." Like,
You're fighting
yeah,
this girl's mom just because she's the mom of this girl that you just hate for no reason.
yeah, it was
Oh my god,
great.
she was so awful. And I was
Yeah,
like, at the end, it was like they kept pushing her and pushing her. I'm like, oh, don't try to make her redeemable. Don't try to
and they
bring her
didn't,
back in there.
and they didn't really. That
Yeah,
that I like that they really didn't. I mean, she's still around. It's like you at some point you can't really completely get rid of the people that are like, I'm gonna hang out with you now. See,
like
there's always that one friend, you know. There's always that one friend that's just around. You just kind of tolerate them, even though no one really likes them. I
like
think I was
she
that person in high school.
she stayed by Shoya when he was in the hospital like the whole time and just like didn't let anybody else in.
Yeah,
So it's like I guess that's nice, but also you're not letting anybody else in.
and also you're
So
just a horrible
you're
person
a horrible
still. So
person still. Doesn't really
yeah.
it doesn't make up for it. Oh yeah, what was that other girl from school that they brought back? That was like,
Oh, the really quiet one.
yeah, the one that like at first was
She
trying
was
to
the one.
learn sign language when they were in
Yeah,
elementary school.
yeah,
Yeah, I mean,
yeah. I liked her. I liked her character a lot.
she's good.
Yeah.
Um, Also, they had Shoko's sister, who was like pretended to be her boyfriend at first, and
Yeah.
I was like, that does not look like a boy. What's going on here?
Well, they made her purposely androgynous, so that it would be because I thought it was a girl
Yeah,
first at two, and then
yeah, I
I
was
was like,
surprised when she
oh,
said boyfriend. Like,
oh,
oh,
okay, and then I was like, okay, I mean, yeah, sure, and then she was like, oh no, I'm her younger sister. I was like,
okay.
oh. I like how we both just went, oh, at the same time.
So, what do you think of how they handled the suicide attempt from Shoko, and then the fact that he like kind of he saved her and then fell himself? Do you
Hmm.
like that scene?
I did. I liked how every shot of her was like really serene and calm, and it like really showed her determination to I'm going to do this. I'm gonna, and every scene or every shot with Shoya was like fast, frenetic, and he's like panicking, trying to get to the door, trying to stop her from doing it. He's like falling on the floor. Um, it really encapsulated the helplessness of the scene, and like I honestly didn't know what was going to happen, and I was really hoping that he would be able to make it, and he did.
Yeah,
Um, and that was some really good direction of that scene. That was really really good.
yeah. And at that point, it was like
Mm.
they had not sugarcoated anything, so it definitely wouldn't have put it past them for her to just have committed suicide or attempted there.
Yeah,
So I was, oh, is this the direction they're going? Like, is he gonna have to just like live with that now?
yeah,
But no, they did this little switcheroo, kind of like Hawkeye and
yeah.
and
Hawkeye and Black Widow.
yeah,
Are you saying that Avengers Endgame was inspired by A Silent Voice?
that's what I'm
I
saying.
think,
It's a direct
yeah,
inspiration.
pretty much. It's direct. It's direct. In fact, it's a ripoff.
Yeah,
I think that that they should sue.
it was a little more. It was like I don't know what I was expecting to happen there when he like grabbed her.
Mhm.
Like I kind of was expecting him to actually end up dropping her anyway, because they've been so real with all the other stuff and the gravity of it. It was like, oh, he's gonna get that close and then he's gonna end up dropping her anyway. I never really expected that she would get up and then he would drop. I was like,
Yeah.
okay, that's interesting, because then it
Yeah.
puts Shoko in this whole new situation. She has to deal with the guilt of that, and then everyone's still
Yeah.
shutting her out. I did feel like it was a little too long, the movie. If I didn't know that it was inspired by or came from a series of manga, then I definitely would have been like, they could have
Mhm.
truncated this, especially with all these, the whole segment of like bringing all these side characters back, and it's like, let's talk to each of these. I feel like they could have cut out some of those and made a more concise story.
Yeah, I suppose that's true. I did like so. On that note, I did look up some stuff about kind of the manga. A lot of the side characters are fleshed out more. They've got more time to develop, and I think there's like the whole reason that the fight happens is kind of. I didn't really like how they, at least in the synopsis that I read, I didn't really like it. I want to read the manga at some point, but I didn't really like it. It was like they were trying to make some like film. They all got together because they were making a movie together or something. It was very strange. I mean, it's very like a bunch of high school students would do something like that, right? But like, which that's something that I kind of liked. But like that there was like some fight about that, and I was like, oh, that's kind of weird. I don't know if I necessarily like that or not. But kind of basically from what I gathered is, if you want necessarily like a further fleshed out story, read the manga, but the anime does a very, very good job of condensing it down so that the focus is just on primarily on the two leads, and it kind of services the story. Some people's opinion is that it actually services the story better because it just focuses mainly on them.
Mm-hmm.
And then, depending on how you feel about the side characters, the story doesn't get bogged down, and it just kind of focuses mostly on that sort of relationship. So, and their relationship was so good that like they so powerful and so real. I like how at the end when they're both kind of like they both essentially blame themselves for everything in their lives, which is why they both hate themselves. And like that's kind of like a lot of where the breakdown in a lot of relationships come from is communication. You know, a lot of this movie has obviously to do with that, given that she's deaf and she has trouble communicating herself in more ways than just in sign language. When she tries to like, one of the cutest scenes in the movie is when she tries to tell him that she loves him and he can't understand what she's saying, and it's like it's both like heartwarming and heartbreaking at the same time, because it's like you want her to accomplish that in her life and she can't do it, and she's frustrated and embarrassed that she can't, so then he's just like, she say something about the moon?
Yes.
And it's like, oh yeah, I guess the moon is out today or something like that.
I don't know how he got the moon from that.
I think translation thing would be my guess.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It was like,
I can't.
Not even
I don't
sound.
remember what. Yeah.
By the way, there was a moment in the scene one of the scenes on the bridge. I think it was the final one where they're like, where he just came out of his coma, miraculously.
Yeah.
And
yeah,
he like tells her.
The lighting of that scene is amazing, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
The blue tones there. Oh.
Yeah.
Gorgeous.
I feel like the direction in general is so good, and this is like more.
Yeah.
It's like more artistic than most animes do, like more purposefully. Like, I'm trying to think of a comparison.
The X's over everyone's face.
Yeah. Like
people, I know you probably be like, oh, that's so on the nose, but like I like that a lot. I think it just says so much without having to come out and say it. You know.
Yeah, that was interesting. I've never really seen anything done like that.
Yeah.
But I was gonna say there was one moment on the bridge where he was like, he told her to look up and she did. And I was like, what? How did she hear him? I feel like that was just a minor flaw that somehow made it in.
Was she wearing her hearing aid then though? Maybe because he was yelling. He like if he was talking loudly, she could hear him with the hearing aid.
I didn't feel like he was yelling. I thought he was just like, look at me, and she was like,
I don't remember. Oh. I don't remember that.
Yeah,
but
I mean it was a minor thing, but I wrote it down. I was like, okay. That just slipped in there.
Down the whole movie right there.
Yeah, he kind of knocks it down a few points.
Yeah, it's
not
probably
actually
like
deaf.
4.5 for me. Just after that.
Girl's not actually deaf. Yeah, and there was also a nice shot in that whole suicide, Shoko suicide during the fireworks. That was really cool, where like the curtain comes up and it's like flapping, and then when it goes away, see that she's
gone. Yeah.
But then you're like, oh, it's over, but Shoya got there in time. And this was really nice.
Yeah.
The whole thing with the fireworks was really nice.
Oh yeah, the fireworks itself was just like, yeah, such a good scene.
But some of the most beautiful anime definitely I've seen, because a lot of the times it all kind of blends together and nothing really sticks out in my mind.
See, the character designs in this stand out a lot. Like it didn't feel overly generic. I mean, maybe Naoko was kind of maybe the most like kind of generic looking character, but I felt like most of the characters really stood out in terms of their design. Not to the point where it was distracting, but I'd say to the service of the movie, because it sticks out in my mind a lot more. I can see those characters like very well. Might not be able to remember their names, but I can see pretty much all those characters in my mind. They don't really blend together. Some anime can start to feel a little samey sometimes, but
yeah, and the fact that they're like memorable scenes as far as direction is really cool too, because they don't often, like, after watching an anime movie, be like, oh, that scene was so really beautifully directed.
So, okay, here's a question for you. Which title do you prefer? Because the literal translation is the shape of voice. We call it the silent voice here, or
Yeah,
a silent voice.
the shape of voice or silent voice. I mean, I like a silent voice.
I do too.
I think it's more like, not only is it a nicer title, but just I think it works well.
I have to look in. There was a comment I read that somebody had made that they thought that the shape of voice sounded better in terms of the manga because it sort of was more about everyone, whereas the silent voice was more about our lead characters. So,
Yeah,
so yeah,
and everything's kind of told through the lens of not only from her perspective a lot of the time, but also everyone's perspective and how they communicate with her or choose to not communicate with her.
yeah.
So I think it makes sense. Yeah. Also, another thing, I had read that the English voice actor is actually deaf for Shoko, which is really
Oh,
interesting.
that's great. I think I had read that some time ago. I'd forgotten that until you said that. But yeah, that's great.
And I heard that the Japanese voice actor wasn't, but they like read up on what how deaf people speak and things like that.
Hmm.
But I've heard the Japanese voice actor is really good too.
Yeah. So yeah, I was very impressed by the dub. The entire dub cast was great, by the way. So there were a lot of people that I looked through because the Netflix version didn't have all the credits, didn't have any English names listed. It had like it
Ah,
went through the whole Japanese credits, and then it was just like Spanish credits, and then boom, that was it.
hmm,
There was no English audio. So
weird.
um, Robbie Damon played the Shota Shoya.
Show you.
Shoya. Yeah, and he's been in a lot of stuff recently. He was in Final Fantasy 15. He was in something else that I was surprised because I really liked his voice in it. I'm trying to remember what that was now because I was like, wow, he has more range than you may expect. But yeah, he was incredible. He did a great job. And so here's the thing. Did you feel that because you said you went into the movie thinking, oh, this character is a monster, he's irredeemable. Um, did you think that the movie was effective at showing him to be a sympathetic character? Because I do. I think it was very good at showing like it didn't excuse the things he did and say, oh well, he just had a troubled past, so it's okay. It it was like no, what he did was horrible. What he did was wrong. And but at the same time, it's like people who people who do that as like aren't completely irredeemable as long as they're have the have the will and the desire to change from that.
I think it was important. The first of all, the time jump was important to really make it effective, because it's like we get a quick, stark contrast between how he was as this obnoxious kid, and he's much more
Yeah.
mature now. So it's like you're already we're more sympathetic to him, and you can see like the ramifications of it. A big
Hmm.
thing with this movie was karma and a lot of the stuff that happened, where it's like,
The ripple effect, that was that I loved every use that they did that. They had like the lines, the circle, it was like a black screen and they had the white circles. It was every time it was kind of a flashback to showing like how his bully status completely fell apart and how he became bullied after
yeah.
that. I thought those are all like super well done.
So it was effective to do that, and also, you know, that he's endured kind of the same thing, but obviously doesn't make it right. But then the fact
Yeah.
that he's actively trying to uh, redeem himself for it,
Hmm.
that definitely helps a lot. Like, you need to have that character actively wanting to change it, not just like have her show up randomly one time and he's like, oh yeah, I did that, and maybe I should apologize. It's like, no, I need to do this. He actively set out to do it, and that's what made him more redeemable. But
Mm.
yeah, going into it, I was like, I don't know about this, because I
Yeah.
didn't know definitely didn't know the level of depth and how they would handle the movie. So I was expecting it to be more one dimensional, whereas like kid grows up and then he's like, oh, I shouldn't have done that when I was young. But it's like he didn't even fully embrace like apologizing for it, because he didn't even apologize when he first encountered her. It took him till like the end to actually apologize for it.
Because I don't think he had seen that he was even worth apologizing for anything. He had extremely low self-worth of himself. He didn't think he was worthy of even having friends anymore. Like, it was just existing, and that was it. And he didn't even want to do that at the very beginning of the movie, where he starts to try to attempt to commit suicide, and then like it just kind of snaps out of it when he sees like a fireworks or something going on down below. Someone's setting off fireworks, and kind of like makes him come to. And I think that's he mentions later on. I don't remember exactly what it was he realized at that moment, but it was something. You don't nothing has to end. Things you can always start moving forward. There's always a chance that something can happen, or you can try to better yourself.
Yeah, it's important. It's really important that they made him like experience that extreme low, and it's not like he just went on and lived a happy life for up until through high school, and then he starts thinking about it. It's like it's kind of immediately put in a place where it's like, what you did was wrong, and you're immediately gonna feel a lot of years of consequences of that, from not only like the bullies who bullied with you are gonna turn on you, but everybody else is gonna turn on you. Yeah, I thought it was really, really well done there. So just overall, really well done, really tastefully done. A lot more gravity to it than I expected. Like the weight of all the different scenes and the issues they handled, they handled them a lot more carefully than I expected. And the only things I don't really like about the movie were a lot of the side characters I didn't feel like were developed enough, and at the same time it was like I felt the movie went on a little too long, considering that it's like the amount of time they spent on each of these side characters wasn't enough to develop them, but at the same time it took up a lot of the movie, especially after the first half. It was like, okay, we're really just waiting for it to get back to the main two characters doing it again. It's like, okay, we're spending a lot of time going to these other characters.
So I did want to mention that this movie was directed by a woman who works at Kyoto Animation.
Oh yeah.
Which it's been in the news. Obviously, you would have to probably be under a rock not to know that Kyoto Animation was attacked, and a lot of people died. Like something like 30. I don't remember the exact number. It's like 30. That was quite a few people died, and a lot more were injured. But like, this is the kind of caliber of what they can do. Like, this isn't the only film that they've made that has like that's been regarded fairly well. I mean, I think it's the one that has the most notoriety. But they have a very varied and large array of genres and things they tackle. And I'm glad that they adapted this. And that I can't remember the director's name off the top of my head. But she's, from what I've heard, she's very talented, and she's somebody that people are going to be on the lookout for, because she directed another film, Liz and the Bluebird, which I picked up on Blu-ray. I haven't watched it yet, and I've heard that's very good too. So definitely looking forward to that someday.
Also, one of the few anime films, definitely of like recent history, that has like absolutely no fan service that I can remember. It was there was like that one moment. You can't really consider it fan service though. Like it was just sort of like where the shy girl and deaf girl reunited again. Yeah, and she was like, she had signed something, and she's like, your chest has got bigger. That was so weird.
And that's when he just got up and was like, I'm going to the bathroom. Yeah. He's like, I'm out. I don't want to talk about this.
She was like, your chest has gotten bigger. You want me to check for you? And they're like, ha 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 ha. It was like so funny to them. Oh my god.
Yeah.
Also, there was one shot where it was like Shoya's mom from behind. It was just legs. I was like, what's going on here? Is she naked? Is she just in underwear? Because she was like, Shoya forgot what they were talking about.
That was kind of a goop.
Yeah. It was weird, but I just saw legs. Like, what's going on?
It was weird, man. It was weird. Yeah.
What are you trying to do here?
Yeah.
But yeah, like.
But yeah, there wasn't
fan
really,
service, so it's not like.
Yeah.
If you show this to someone who's not an anime watcher, you know, I think they would be more accepting of it. Then it's not like, oh my god, crazy, over the top, like wacky moments, and not crazy fan fiction stuff. So it's like much more palatable for like mainstream audience too. Yeah.
Well, hey, and Kyoto Animation is no stranger to that. Like, Miss Kobayashi's Dragon Maid has plenty of fan service, but you know, that's a different story. It's a different production. This is much more grounded in reality.
Yeah, and I feel like it would be a lot more definitely devalued if they had that in this movie.
I would agree. It's dealing with really heavy stuff, so it should stay respectful, and it did very much.
Yeah. And they didn't even try to sexualize the main character at all, so it's cool. So
it was a very sweet story in terms of that.
What would you give for a Tarqaron score out of 10?
So I'm going to give this a 9.5 out of 10.
What?
It's not... Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah. This movie was... I mean, a lot of movies make me cry, but this movie made me cry in like 3 or 4 different spots. It was very powerful. I've never had like intense depression or like have any suicidal, really not seriously anyway, it's dealing with any suicidal thoughts, but I could definitely relate to the main character in terms of self-esteem issues. I didn't bully people, but like I know what it's like to be, and so I could relate to both the lead male, lead female characters in that regard. And I just know what it's like to like isolate yourself from people. And like the pain of that, and not feeling that you're worthy, not feeling that you're, not feeling that you're good enough, basically. So this movie tackling that and like doing so in such a powerful, impactful way. I haven't seen another animated film tackle a topic like this, like with this much sincerity. You know, it's cool. It's great that anime does stuff like this, because you have your fantastical adventures with Studio Ghibli, you have huge sweeping romantic star-crossed lovers stories with Makoto Shinkai's films, and then you have these smaller, quieter, reflective films that are just, and all of them hit so hard in different ways. Anime is great. I love anime. It's an extremely varied art form, and this is like a shining, crowning example as to the power of that art form and that art movement. So 9.5. It's so good. You should absolutely go out of your way to see it.
Damn, there you go.
Yeah.
I feel like my score has gone up as we were talking. It's like I wasn't as impressed going into it, like after first impressions. So it's kind of like it was a little too long. Like it was kind of dragging on in the middle for me, but at the same time, I mean, I loved it thematically for sure.
Yeah.
It tackles a lot of stuff that you don't really see tackled in such a well thought out way. But I'd say probably 8.5.
Okay.
8.5.
Okay.
Only because I felt like these side characters and the kind of like
I get you.
The tangents that went on kind of detracted from it a bit. If this movie was like an hour and a half, I feel like it would be a lot better.
I don't know. It'd be. Yeah. I mean, I guess they could do it, but like, I feel like you're missing out on stuff. I agree with you that the side characters aren't.
Almost all the side characters, I feel like, could easily be taken out, and you wouldn't lose too much. It's important to have the bullying chick to be a shining example of what not to be at all times. The best friend was useful for him.
Yeah, I like the best friend a lot too. Yeah.
The one girl who was kind of like the bystander bully, in the beginning with the glasses, where it's like you didn't actively bully, but you laughed at the jokes and stuff.
Yeah.
And then she kind of came back and she was like, "No, I never did that." And then the boyfriend, like, what? And then it's like, "Oh, let's go visit this old other friend from elementary school. What's going on? Why we got all these people now?" Like you look at them, like the movie poster, and it's got like 6 people or something. Like, what are these people doing here? should be like the 2, maybe the sister, best friend, and then like the bully girl. Yeah, but it was a great movie. Great movie.
Yeah. So there's Tarqaron, the aggregate right there. The Tarqaron official score is a 9.0.
9.0 out of 10.
Yeah.
It's up there, man. I think only Avengers Endgame maybe higher.
Yeah. So far, yeah.
But,
This is a very good movie. Like I said, get your tissue boxes, especially if you're affected by stories like I am. So.
I'd love to see movies like this be embraced more by general audiences. Like I want this to be a theater event that people go out to see. It's like, wow, Avengers Endgame, The Silent Voice.
It did get a theatrical release a couple years ago, I think, but obviously it was limited. A lot of these animated anime films are somewhat limited, but they do have, they do roll out the red carpet, so to say, during those events. They're usually pretty, they do a good job of promoting them if you're in the know.
I want like my mom to watch a movie like this. Like she doesn't watch any anime at all, and she doesn't really take it seriously. Like whenever I'm watching it, she's like, okay, and like I feel like there's definitely a barrier there to where like if you're not heavily involved or it's at least introduced at a young age and like and like ingratiate yourself in that kind of culture to understand it, it's like it seems so abstract.
Well, I did watch this with my parents. I've gotten them into anime through Ghibli, basically. And we've watched other stuff. We watched some Mamoru Hosoda films, like The Girl Who Leapt Through Time and The Boy and His Beast, which are both really great films too. And we've watched handful of other films like this. Nothing that I can remember like right off the top of my head, but they both very much enjoyed this movie.
Yeah, I'll have to show her a movie like this or a Studio Ghibli movie, I guess.
Yeah.
She's never really been interested at all in anime, or even though she that's the weird standard of it, is that like she'll watch like Disney and Pixar and DreamWorks animation, but it's like this seems so foreign.
It's because it is
foreign.
It is foreign. It's literally foreign.
Foreign is bad.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think a lot of times people associate animated with kids, and I think that's I think that just cheapens it a little bit. I mean, I feel like the fact that Pixar and Disney can speak so well to adults as much as they can to the younger kids, like to me speaks to some of their artistry. But anime has an artistry all its own, and it definitely, I'm glad to a point, anyways, that it's gotten as widespread and as big as it has, as the way it is now, because we get stuff like this because of how big it's gotten,
So yeah, we should definitely do more anime movies, because I don't think I would ever watch this movie if it weren't for this.
I'm glad you mentioned it, and I was like, yes, we should watch that. Need to do that. You just flip through Netflix so we can find something, we'll watch it.
Netflix,
Great.
just the trending Netflix films have worked wonders for us.
Yeah. We've been exposed to some great stuff just from that.
Good Will Hunting I just saw on Netflix, and I was like, I've been wanting to watch that.
Yeah.
What else? I feel like there's another one too, but
yeah,
extremely wicked, shockingly evil, and vile.
What we mentioned in every single video, including this
so
one.
good.
All right, I think that should do it.
All right, thank you for watching, and we'll check you to see you on the flip side.
Check ya. Check you
All right,
later.
we'll check you out.